Hi, welcome back to Fresh Faces New Ideas. My name is David. If you like the channel and you want to support me, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. So for this video, we're going to discuss a little bit of two things. We're going to discuss the attack on the Capitol that happened April 2nd. This happened basically right as I was wrapping up my live stream, so there wasn't really any information about it. And honestly, there still is not a lot of information about it. But I also want to talk about some of the right-wing push about the narrative around it. And this is a consistent narrative with a couple of things. So the attack, so what happened was around 1 o'clock Eastern, I think it's Eastern Standard Time, a car crashed into a barrier. And it hit two Capitol Police officers. And then the suspect jumped out of the car and attempted to stab them, and they killed them. And then one of the officers died, and the other one is still in the hospital. So we're going to go look at some of the information from this that'll give us a better timeline. As of right now, the things that we know, and I'm going to show this to you because this is the data that's out there. We know the name of the attacker. His name is Noah Green. He was 25 years old. We don't have a motive. This doesn't appear to be some type of terrorist attack. This does not appear to be some type of suicide by cop. But there are things that we do know about this, so let's take a look at that now. All right, so this article is talking about what we know about him. So we know he used to be a former football player. He used to where did he play? He played in college. But the big thing of this is, it appears that he was mentally unstable. There's some of the posts and stuff that are shown that he thought he was being mind controlled, or people were trying to mind control him. There are things like that. So it looked like from the post that we were able to see, because Facebook has removed his account because they were producing things like End of Times, the Antichrist. Although End of Times, the Antichrist would not, make him any different than some pastors who argue about this type of stuff. So I guess Facebook pulled it down in order to just protect it and then give it to the investigators. So let's see what the live updates were. The incident occurred at 1. He hit the 2 officers, and then he jumped out with a knife. It appears the officer died from the injuries from the car, and he didn't actually get stabbed. He suffered medical ailments, and said he believed the federal government was targeting him with mind control. So look, it is very clear that from what we know right now, this person was not mentally stable. Like, that's very clear. It is also clear that we don't really know much else. It appears that he has some ties possibly to Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. We don't know. Look, so here's basically the stand that I'm going to have on this. This is the information that's available right now. By Friday or later in the week, or in the coming weeks, as more information comes out about this, I will cover it. But right now, there really is not much more than this thing happened and they didn't know about it. Partly because he died, we don't have we don't have motive and things like that. So we're gonna have to kind of piece it together through his social media and things he's said to other people. But as of right now, we know this happened. Unfortunately, this is the second Capitol police officer to lose their life directly in the line of duty. There was, I think it was 3 now, who have committed suicide because of the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. We know over 140 were injured. 2 of them are currently suing Donald Trump. So this is something we have to look into. Now, for the defense of the Capitol itself, they had just taken out the big overall fences that have been put up from the response to the Capitol insurrection. So there are always going to be things like this. Like, every so often, somebody tries to ram into the Capitol and do one of these things. It's been a while since one of this particular type of attack has happened. But there's no way to overly stop them. So this is one of those things that happens every so often when you have lone wolf type people. I'm not saying that he is a lone wolf actor, but when these type of events happen, there's a whole lot of times in Europe where lone wolf attackers would just run over people with their trucks or with vans, and that's how they would commit their terrorist attack. And the response says, well, I guess now we have to ban trucks because they're using them. It's a stupid argument. It's not the same as the gun violence argument. Now look, Ilhan Omar was correct when she said this could have been worse had he had a gun. She's right. It could have absolutely been worse. However, I'm not saying this is a gun control issue. This is a different issue. We don't know what the issue is here. We don't have enough information, and that is very clear. And that is the big point of what I'm trying to say is, as of right now, we do not have enough information. And there's going to be an investigation, and more information will come out. And they may not ultimately get to the bottom of it. Remember, the largest mass shooting in history, in the U.S. history, was the Vegas shooting. And basically, our understanding is he just did it because. Like, we don't, and this was like over a year ago. This is a couple of years ago now. And we don't really have a true motive for why. So this may end up being something like that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is some of the online response to this. Now, this is I actually talked about this in one of my other Ben Shapiro videos. A part of the response to certain things is, it's not going to be covered if it doesn't fit your narrative. Now, this is coming from the left wing, comes from the right wing. Now, I'm going to point out the right wing one because in this particular case, it was so freaking egregious. So we're going to look at two specific examples, but it's going to be on a third person in the second example. So we're going to look at people. We're going to look at Charlie Kirk's Twitter, and we're going to look at Tommy Lauren's Twitter with and lies with Laura Ingraham. So we're going to look at Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk wrote, this is at 2:09 on April 3rd. This is the day after. And his response is, the media is practically silent on the attacks on the Capitol that happened just yesterday. Yet they still reminding us almost daily of an attack that took place 3 months ago. If the attackers yesterday were MAGA hat, do you think this would still be the case? Now, let's compare the two things that happened. One, thousands of people invaded the Capitol and attempted to murder lawmakers. We know this for a fact because they've said it and they were chanting it. Thousands of them, hundreds of them have been arrested. It was a very different type of attack. We have never seen anything like this. Also, none of them were killed. Well, actually, that's not true. One of them was killed. One police officer died. And if you go and you look at Kayla Bennett has made the argument that no police officers died during that election. So there's a difference between this attack and what happened at the Capitol. And look, I'm going to counter to agree with him on part of this. The people who were arguing online before the information came out that this is obviously a MAGA person is just wrong. We cannot put blame on these type of things. There are certain stories that yes, you can judge before. Generally, in a shooting, based on the evidence, if the person is taken alive, they're more often than not a white shooter. That is just how the evidence has come out. For this. So, in response to Charlie Kirk, I posted this video. I posted this picture. This picture is CNN covering the attack. That says 12:30 Washington time. I think we're about an hour ahead. So this is about 1 o'clock. So this was about an hour or so before Charlie Kirk posted this. This CNN was covering this. Yeah, I then posted another one at 6 when they covered it again. So let's be clear. The narrative that they were pushing is that this is not being covered because it's not the people that they want the people that fits their narrative. This is not true. This was being covered by most major networks. I have to tell you, I have not seen Fox actually cover this. And the reason I have not seen that is because when I flip through the channels, I generally have seen Portland. I have seen Hunter Biden. I saw some more Hunter Biden. And then I saw Little Nas. Oh, and Georgia. And that was basically the extent of what I've seen from Fox. I have not seen this. That does not mean that Fox has not covered this. I have to tell you, flipping back and forth, I personally have not seen it. I'm sure they have covered it. I'm sure they covered it live when it happened. However, this is an inaccurate statement from Charlie Kirk here. Let's go to this one, because this one is more egregious. This is Tomi Lahren. Now, if you don't know, first off, you didn't know who Charlie Kirk is. Charlie Kirk is the founder of Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA is a conservative action committee that is designed to be on campuses and target young conservatives. It is a grift. This is well documented that it is a grift. There are Nazi ties to leadership in some of the chapters for that. That is also well documented. And there are things like that from going from Turning Point USA. Now, Tomi Lahren started on the Blaze. She is now a Fox News contributor. She should know these things better. This is at 7:30. She is retweeting Laura Ingraham, who, if I have not covered Laura Ingraham yet because it's been a while since she said something truly, truly crazy on screen. However, Laura Ingraham is the host of the Ingraham Angle, which I believe comes on after Sean Hannity. I don't know when exactly the Ingraham Angle is on, but it's in that like 4-hour time block with Jeanine Pirro, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and her. Like she's like one of their main news anchors. So the fact that she's going to say that there are two non-stories, the Boulder mass shooting, the Capitol car ramming, is just absurd because she is one of the people who's in charge of talking about the news. Although technically she is not considered an actual journalist, part of her job is to cover the news. So if she wanted to actually talk about these things, she would. Now, let's be clear about these two things, because I've talked about this in one of the other things. As it currently stands, mass shootings are a daily occurrence in the U.S., sometimes more than daily. So they generally only get coverage if they are massive, if it is a massive kill count, like Boulder was, I think, the largest kill count for a mass shooting this year currently. And as of Friday when this happened, we had over 22 mass shootings and over 10,000 people have died from gun violence in the U.S. this year. We had 22 mass shootings in the last since Atlanta. So there's a difference. Mass shootings tend to either barely make the news and stay for about a day, or they're so egregious that they stay for a long time. And I covered this in the Ben Shapiro ones. At this point, the only ones that really stay are mass shootings that have a high kill count or especially egregious. So it's either Vegas or Sandy Hook type ones. However, that's not the point of this particular point. She said the perp doesn't fit the lesser gender narrative, so the tragedies don't count. This is at 6 o'clock. CNN is now still covering this. Now, let's be clear. These tragedies count. They count whether or not it fits an agenda or not. However, the difference is they are arguing that they don't count or aren't being covered, and neither of which are correct. Furthermore, the things that actually count and actually don't fit an agenda and aren't being covered are things like the Matt Gaetz scandal. For those of you who don't know, because I briefly went over it, Matt Gaetz is in a lot of trouble. Now, Fox News covered Matt Gaetz. They covered Matt Gaetz when Tucker invited him on, and then he threw Tucker under the bus. And then you know how much Fox News talked about Matt Gaetz? Nothing for 48 hours. Zero. They didn't cover him for 2 straight days. This was the breaking story in American politics. It was a congressman, a heavy Trump supporter, was advocated in child sex trafficking, prostitution, drugs, and no, that was at least 3 of the things. I mean, it keeps going. So what are the things that he's done? But that is the point. They didn't cover it. So while they're sitting here complaining about media bias, and this is something I've seen from other conservatives, but these are the two more prominent ones that I personally responded to and wanted to bring up. It is worth mentioning over and over again that when you see somebody say, this will not be covered because it does not fit an agenda, follow it up. Or, more importantly, look at who's actually making these statements. These two people, and Charlie Kirk, these two people especially, are actually in the news network. Tomi, I know for a fact on today, went on the Faulkner Focus to complain about what's in the infrastructure bill. Why didn't you talk about the shooting then, Tomi? You were on the news. So Laura Ingraham's also on the news. So the fact that they're saying, oh, these aren't going to be covered because of some leftist control of the media, this is Fox News level people. These are some of the highest level people in Fox News not covering stories. Okay? So let's wrap this up. All right. So, final thoughts. We don't know. We don't know a lot about what happened. like I said, this is bad. It's regardless of what his motives are. This is a problem. The fact that another officer died is a problem. The fact that this happened is a problem. We don't know the cause, and I'm not going to subscribe any causes to him as of right now. Although, based on the evidence so far, we cannot draw direct conclusions. We can draw suggestions. It appears to be that he was mentally unstable, but we don't know for sure, and we have to wait for the investigation to figure it out. Furthermore, when you see people arguing that something is not being covered because it doesn't fit a narrative, generally they're doing deflection on something they're not covering, or they're just not being truthful. So when you see responses like this, actually do the research. Look into the other sources that they're complaining won't cover it and see what they're actually saying. See if there's actually being covered, and then see what the other news are covering. Generally, when there is a massive breaking news story, Fox News, if it is against a Republican, will be covering something vastly different. This is almost universally true. It was especially true during the Trump administration. So, if you like the channel, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter @FacesIdeas, and I will see you in the next one.